Okay, Chevra. Baruch Hashem, we were speaking yesterday about the tzadik, the banoni, and the rasha, and we explained that the tzadik has one judge. A tzadik is a righteous person. He has one judge, which means his internal discussion is always going in one direction. What's that direction? Hashem. The rasha is always going in one direction. What's that direction? Animal soul. Beautiful. And the banoni is fight between the two. There seems to be two voices in his head. Now, how do you go relate to that? Two voices. You know, there's a great Jewish joke, which is, a guy walks into a doctor for, like a shrink. He says, Doc, I'm suffering, schizophrenia and double personality disorder. He's like, oh, wow, okay, come in. Just tell me all about it. He's like, there's going to be a group discount, right? So anyways, then we relate to that a lot. There's like a feeling of like, oh my, there's so many voices, there's so much stuff going on inside of me. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. So the banoni seems very relatable to us as we have these voices inside of us that are vying for our identity. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Now, we're going to drop a bomb right now. Look inside of Tanya. Kegain Amar Rabba. Rabba said, this is the Gemara. Rabba said the following thing. Kegain Ana Banoni. Oh, you know who's a Banoni? Me. Okay, wait a second. We just said a tzaddik is someone who the Yetzer Tov runs his life, and specifically we said a tzaddik is someone on a simple level that he has majority mitzvahs, and the rasha is the one that Yetzer Hara runs his life and has majority averas. And we said that the banoni is someone who has this fight, and maybe he also has 50% mitzvahs because he was at averas. So you know what Rabba said? Oh, I'm a banoni. Remember, Rabba was the Gadol Hador. Rabba was Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Rabba was the greatest rabbi of the generation. So what does Abaya say back to Rabba? Amar le Abaya, Lo yishavik mar chai lakol beria. You've not left life for any of us. Meaning, Rabba, if you're the Gadol Hador and you're a banoni, then what are we? We won't finish the sentence. So Rabba seemed to think that he was a banoni, which is going to require a bit of investigation, because if a banoni means 50% mitzvahs, 50% averas, how would Rabba have ever made such a mistake to actually think that he's a banoni? And if you want to say that Rabba only thought that he was a banoni because he was modest, he didn't want to say that he's a tzaddik, is there anything modest about saying that you do averas? I don't want to tell anybody that I'm a tzaddik, so I go one day to yeshiva, and the next day I just go to a brothel, and the next day back to yeshiva, and then the next day to somewhere else. Is that modest, or that's just horrible? That's not a type of humility. That's just false. So the Tanya just presents the question as, what was Rabba? What was Rabba? He says he was a banoni. But it's going to be very hard to understand that Rabba was a banoni based on this awareness if a banoni means 50% mitzvahs and 50% averas. And therefore we're going to be forced to change our understanding of what a banoni is based on this. And furthermore, the Baal Tanya is asking a lot of very big questions here. Ulahavin kol ze ber hated. We have to understand this all very well. V'gam lahavin. We have another thing we have to understand. Masha amar Eoiv. This that Eoiv, Job. There's no Job. Job. What Job said. The Gemara Basra. Ribbon Shalaylam. That Eoiv said, Rabbanu Shalaylam, Master of the universe, Barasat Tzadikim, Barasat Rishayim. Hashem, you made Tzadikim and you made Rishayim. What does it sound like Eoy is implying? Nature or nurture? We're going to be dealing with the question in the Tanya of nature or nurture. What is the Jewish approach? It sounds like from Eoy that there's something called predestiny. Barasat tzadikim, you made tzadikim, you made somebody righteous, that's how he's going to be. You made other people wicked, that's how he's going to be. You're stuck. A bad seed, God forbid. It sounds like that from Eoy, that you made people that they're going to be destined to be wicked or destined to be good. However, the Gemara Nida, Tesayin and Beis, a very, very deep, powerful Gemaras, speaking about what is happening to the child in the womb, that there are certain things that are predestined for the child. It says if he's going to be smart or not have such a sharp brain, if he's going to be someone who is strong or weak, rich, poor. Now, it doesn't mean that you're like some weakling. I was talking about in The Simpsons, there was like an episode like 10 years later that Milhouse became like buff, like jacked. He was like the biggest, twerp. And then he became jacked. Like, that seems to go against what the Gemara says, that certain people are going to be weaker. Now, it could be Milhouse was meant to be jacked. He just never actualized that. It doesn't mean that everyone's meant to be jacked or rich or poor. There's going to be a certain limit that you could have in those areas. However, the one thing that the Gemara says that the angel doesn't encode into your DNA, v'hatzadik v'rasha loika amar. The one thing that's not encoded into your DNA is your free choice to become a tzadik or a rasha. That's the one thing that's left up to you. How much you're going to be a rich guy, a poor guy, weak. So all that stuff, more or less, that's written down, predestined. But it seems the one thing that you have control over is, are you going to be a tzaddik or not? And therefore, what does that seem to provide a question?
It's nurture.
It's nurture, and therefore, what's the kasha?
So which one is it?
What did Eoy say? Eoy, you said, Rabbana Shalaylam, Barasa tzadikim, barasa rashoim. You made tzadikim, you made rashoim. Wait a second. The Gemara says it's the one thing that you didn't decide. So what is it? Nature or nurture? What is it? He's not going to answer this now. We're going to have to delve deeper into the Tanya to get an answer to this question. He's going to have to explain the entire Kabbalistic framework of the universe first, what your soul is, what it looks like, how it functions, what evil is, what goodness is, how Hashem creates and invigorates the world. And once he explains all those topics, then he's going to be able to answer all these questions. So you have to kind of hold on to your tzitzis and get ready for the ride ahead. V'gam, also, Lohavin Mahus Madregas Banoni. We have to also understand, who is this Banoni? Who is this in between? It's not a tzadik, it's not a rasha. It cannot be that this Banoni that we're talking about has half mitzvahs and half of it. It cannot be. It's impossible. Why? Why is it impossible that it cannot mean he has 50% mitzvahs and 50% of errors? Give me a proof.
You could do 2 mitzvahs back to back, and that would mean you're automatically over the 50-50.
Okay, so one answer might be is that, what a mazel. How common is it that a guy is exactly 50-50? That what a fluke almost. That would be one approach.
Supposed to say then lotasing?
Yeah, but the way that Hashem would make the equation would be that you have exactly 50% mitzvahs and 50% things that you're not doing right. In his calculation, a proof that's sitting on the first page of the Tanya is, what did Rabbah say? I'm a Banoni. Rabbah was Reb Chaim Kanievsky.
How does he make this many mistakes?
Yeah, could Rabbah ever, if a Banoni meant that you do 50% of your day is spent on Netflix, 50%. Could Rabbah even suggest, don't worry, Netflix is not totally evil, besides the fact there's a lot of pedophilia stuff that goes on with them. Shem should save the world. But how could Rabbah ever make such a suggestion of such a thing? right? Rabbi would never suggest, oh, you should know I spent half the day. Chas v'shalom. Rabbi was the greatest sage of the generation. He would never have made that suggestion. So therefore, what are we forced to admit? That our definition of banoni must be incorrect. The essence of a banoni, because Rabbi would have never said that he spends half the day, doing things that he shouldn't be doing. We're forced to say that. How could Rabbi have made such a mistake? Like, I thought that I was at tzadik, but I made a mistake to think that I do averas half the day. I just made a mistake. There's no way that he can make such a mistake. Furthermore, and he's going to bring a few proofs to that. V'noida, it's known about Rabbi. Let's just talk about Rabbi's accolades for a moment. It's known about Rabbi. You want to hear something amazing about Rabbi? The loip sik puma megirsa. He never stopped learning. The Gemara says ever. He always had Torah on his lips all the time. Now, it doesn't mean that he necessarily always was just saying Suk Shegel Sula. Moshe was Zina. Yeshua's the king. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean he was actually just saying. It means everything in his life was Torah, and he was always living and saying Torah. Afilu malacham noves, that the angel of death, loy hayochel lishloit boy, the angel of death could not get him, because it's a known thing that when a person is learning Torah, the angel of death cannot take you. As the Gemara describes with King David, the King David knew that he was going to be taken on Shabbos, so he just steiged al Shabbos. That's why every Motzi Shabbos, when Shabbos ended and he was alive, he knew he had another week to live. So what did he do? Love a Malka. He made a nice party, had a nice Suda. That's why the fourth meal of Shabbos is in honor of King David, Malav Malka. And how did the Malach fool him? He made a noise outside. He didn't stop. That's right. Broke the tree, shook it. It says he didn't stop learning. He still went outside. He was still learning, and then made another noise and distracted him, and that was it. But that's it. You learn, you can't be taken. Mamish. So Rabbah never stopped learning to such a degree that there was always Torah in his mouth, and the angel of death could not even touch him. So how could he have ever made such a mistake? How could he make such a mistake that he actually has half averas chas v'shalom to even make such a suggestion? And by the way, it's pointed out that these 2 points about Rabbah, one implies Rabbah's amount of learning, and the other implies his quality of learning. Which one is his amount of learning? That he never stopped learning. It says he always had the Torah on his lips. What implies his quality of learning? That the angel of death could not touch him. It was so qualitative, his learning, it was so deep that the angel of death could not penetrate. For Oid, more questions from the Balatanya. Furthermore, today is a big question day in the Balatanya. He's building up a number of very solid questions about life, about everything. The Oid, furthermore, Sheharei, Bisha Sha'isa Avoinus, at the moment that a person is doing an Aveira, Nikra Rasha Gomer, he's called a rasha. A little bit of a, downer. A guy could be doing great. He does an Aveira, he's called a rasha. When he does tshuva, Nikra Tzadik Gomer, he's called a perfect tzadik. Which means, wait a second, I do an Aveira, rasha. I do a mitzvah, I do tshuva, and tzadik. So, who's the banoni? Like, where does the banoni exist? If I did an environment, rasha, if I'm a wicked person, if I do a mitzvah, if I do tshuva, I'm already good.
Maybe if he does like a good thing for the wrong reason, or the wrong thing for a good reason.
The wrong thing for a good reason?
Never heard of such a thing.
No, okay, it's called an avera l'shma. So a person's doing, as soon as there's an avera though, he's
maybe he's just not drawn to either way, so when he has a choice to make it.
But he didn't stop learning. Who was how could Rav be the banoni? What is this banoni?
Fight.
Okay, that is the answer. The fight. Afilu ha'oivra, and the Balatanya is going to just prove this even more definitively. That maybe you'll think, oh, only if he does like a class A Avera. But some of the lesser Averas, you're not a rasha if you do that, says the Balatanya. Afilu ha'oivra al-isr kal, shall divrei sefer, mikri rasha. A person does a rabbinic, maybe you're only a rasha if you do something against Torah. Like you do something against the rabbis. It's only the rabbis, what do they know? They made it all up. I'm just doing, he's called a rasha. Like it says in Perek Beis the Yavamas and Perek Kama the Nida. Furthermore, you might think that a guy is only going to be a rasha if he does an Avera. But what if someone else is doing an Avera and I just don't protest? Am I a rasha there also? You could have helped this guy. This guy is going to he's doing something he shouldn't be doing. He's going to a non-kosher food place. And you could help him. He's just addicted to this stuff. To go to the spot, this pub, whatever, drinking. But this girl, it's not good for him. And you could help the guy. He says, girl's not good for you, bro. She's not good. She's bringing you down, brother. He's like, no, it's good for me. It's good for me. You're losing everything. You're losing it all. You're not coming to daven. You're not coming to this. No. She makes me want to put on tefillin. No, she doesn't. Don't give me that. She's fooling you. She's manipulating you. And you can help the guy, and he'll hear it. Mamish. Maybe that example was too personal. He'll hear it. And you don't protest. You don't go and help the guy. It's only if you can help him. And you don't help him. You have the ability to protest. Let him do his thing. Boys will be boys. He's young and what? That's fine. Nikra rasha. Even a guy that could protest. I didn't even do anything. I'm just not protesting. Is a rasha now. Don't. This is not halacha l'mais right now. Don't all of a sudden go out, I'm going to get those guys right now. Easy, boys. Get your rein in the reins a little bit. The kol shekain. Now watch this. Certainly, the kal v'chaymer. A mevatel eze mitzvah saseh she'efshar loy lekayma. If by a derabanan that I'm over. Certainly, if I'm not doing a deraisa. For example, next page. I could have been learning Torah. What's the mitzvah of Torah? Should learn Torah all the time. To teach Torah, to know Torah, to learn Torah. There's a mitzvah of Torah learning all the time. There's a non-stop mitzvah, unless you're doing something else. There's a mitzvah that you have to do. But if you don't have anything else going on, and I don't mean watching Patty Mahomes, this thing going on. If you don't have anything else going on, i.e. a mitzvah, you gotta get married, you gotta help your mom, you gotta do stuff, you have to learn Torah. And the guy's like, No, by the way, taking a break is also, if it's for strength to learn Torah, that's not called bittul Torah. But it means that the guy's just, whatevs. He's got enough energy to learn Torah, but he's just like, nah. Let's just see what's on, whatever. Let's just see what else is going on. Let's just look at some random stuff. So, the Torah says, Sha'alav dirshu, that the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Sadi Tesam at Aleph says, Ki Dvar Hashem Baza, that they've disgraced Hashem's name. Hashem said, the Torah, the Zohar says, the Torah is Hashem's name. And Hashem says, I want you to be involved in the Torah every second of your life. That you're available. You got to do other stuff too. You got to help your wife, your kids, do all that good stuff. You can't tell your wife, she's like, I need you. I'm learning Torah here. She needs you. You have to go help her. But every free moment that you have to be learning Torah. Every free moment. Like they say famously about Moshe Feinstein, many tzaddikim did this. There's a famous story about Moshe, that he said that he made a siyam on Shas in 2 minutes. Siyam on Shas in 2 minutes? Nevin saw one time Shlita, when he was on a flight to go machazik some people in America. So he finished Shas, he was finishing Nida on the plane to America, and then he just had to go, and then on the way back, he made a siyum on brachas. And he just finished brachas the longest Masechta, on the plane ride, just like, 10 hours, finished brachas, whatever. So Reb Moshe Feinstein made a siyum in 2 minutes. The Rebbe, 2 minutes? Like, I've heard different gifts. 2 minutes, 5 minutes. He said, all the 2 minutes of my life that I had 2 minutes, that I was like waiting for the chuppah to start, or I was just waiting for someone to come in, I had 2 minutes that I was waiting. All those extra 2 minutes, I'd open up my Shas and I'd learn. And all the 2 minutes add up, and I finished Shas. I had a special Seder called my 2 minute Seder. In the time between the time that I stole kavod to eat in the Torah, like it says in the Vilna Gaon, he learns that it means to steal Torah. That you have to steal time, and Rav Moshe Feinstein made a siyum of Shas on all that extra time. So these are people that understood the preciousness of not wasting the time learning Torah. Because the Torah says, Hikaris Tikaris. A person, God forbid, will be cut off. You're disgracing Hashem's name, you're not learning Torah. Upshita the mikre rasha tfei me'over iser d'Rabbanan. V'im kein al korchoch habenini ein. So what have we just come to the conclusion? That who's this benini? Because a person that does anything that he shouldn't be doing is a rasha. And Rabbah said he's a benini, and he doesn't do averas. And therefore, what do we have to conclude? And we'll end with this. Ha-Beinani, third line, Ein boy afilu oven bittul Torah, that the Beinani cannot even have any averas. Because if he had any averas, what would he be automatically? A rasha. And therefore the Beinani cannot have any averas. And therefore we can understand why Rabbah made a mistake that he called himself a Beinani. We still don't know then what's the difference in a Beinani and a tzadik. If the Beinani doesn't have any averas, then why isn't he a tzadik? Why is there 3 categories and not 2? So we're left with the Tanya has basically left us on a cliffhanger with literally the questions of life, nature, nurture. Who am I? What's my inner self-talk? What's my essence of who I am? Do I have free choice? Who's a Beinani? Who? Literally life itself. And now he's proved, and who is Rabbah? That he's proved that the Beinani cannot have any averas. But who the Beinani is, we're basically still left with a bit of a mystery. He's going to answer who the Banoni is only after 11 chapters. In the 12th chapter of the Tanya, he's going to explain the Banoni. But in order to do so, he's going to first explain, like we mentioned, the entire Kabbalistic sequence of all the universe and your soul, and then explain what evil is and what good is, and then we're going to arrive at the Banoni. Everyone should have a wonderful day. Yeshua Kaya.